Hey friends, was machst du? What's up? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Memhei, Daf 45, Masechta Sukkah. Friends, we get to a Mishnah that discusses the Aravah, the procession of the Aravah. Very interesting stuff. And then, so we're basically going to discuss that, and then we get into some just really interesting Gemaras. I mean, there's like some super interesting like agadata kind of stuff, and let's just kind of like jump in. I mean, that's kind of what we discussed today. It's like the mitzvah of the Aravah through the lens of this Mishnah that we're about to learn, and some interesting agadatas. So makes for a pretty cool daf. Let's jump in. We're on daf Memhei Amud Aleph, 4 lines into the page at the Mishnah. Mitzvahs Aravah Ketzad. Okay, so how does the mitzvah of the Aravah work? Okay. We know about the lulav, of course, right? You take the thing and you shake it. What is this Aravah? It's been like a shtickle unclear until now, right? Meaning we've had these discussions, Mem Gimel Amud Beis, I think, about do you take the Aravah? Do you stand up the Aravah? What exactly is it? So let's try to make some sense of it. The truth is, interestingly, in the Mishnah alone, I feel like there isn't even quite enough information. I'm kind of using the assistance of actually a Rashbi from Daf Mem Gimel Amud Beis to help out a shtickle. It's interesting. It's not entirely clear, at least in my mind, what exactly the procession of the Aravah is, but I'll do my best to describe at least the way I understand it. And if y'all understand it differently, let us know. So it says the Mishnah, Mitzvah Aravah Ketzad. How does the mitzvah of the Aravah work? Anybody, maybe not anybody, but if you live, I shouldn't even say that, Lemaise, outside of Jerusalem, when you leave Jerusalem on Highway 1, so one of the first places you hit on the right side of the highway is a place called Motza. It's like right opposite Beit Zayit. And in Motza, right, so it says, that there was a place beneath Jerusalem, right? You go down Highway 1 into that valley. V'nikra Motza, and the place is called Motza. Yarden, the Sham, they go down Darton, Umelaktin, Misham, Murbil, Shel Aravah, and they would gather from there, like branches of Aravahs. Uban Vizok fin Osum B'tzidei HaMizbeach. And then they would take them and they would stand them up next to the Mizbeach, V'roshein Kfufin Agabi HaMizbeach. And the top of the branches would be bent over on the Mizbeach. Now, there's a Rashi on Daf Mem Gimel Amud Beis, 2 lines from the bottom. It's like the middle of the Rashi. Third word on the line, 2 lines from the bottom. Tibiyad notlin osa. So Rashi says over here that they would take, and I think we're talking about the Kohanim, that the Kohanim would take the Aravahs in their hands, uminainim, and they would shake the Aravah, umakifin es ha-mizbeach, and they would walk around the Mizbeach, biragleim, on foot, v'achar kach zok v'nosa, and then afterwards they would stand up by the Mizbeach. So I think that, so this Mishnah is really just talking, so if we just had this Mishnah, it would sound like they would just collect Aravahs and stand them up by the Mizbeach with the top of the Aravah hanging over the Mizbeach. But I think that there was more to it. I think that basically the Kohanim would take these Aravahs and they would hold them, shake them, walk around the Mizbeach with them, and then rest them against the Mizbeach, surrounding the Mizbeach. That's kind of what I'm envisioning. Taku veriu v'taku, they blew tkiya, true a tkiya. B'chol yom ha'kifin es ha-mizbeach pam achas. Every day they would walk around the Mizbeach one time. V'omim, and then they would say, Ono Hashem Oshiana, Ono Hashem Atzlichana, that please God save us, please God help us. Rabbi Yehuda Omer says, Rabbi Yehuda, Ani v'ho Hoshiana. Rabbi Yehuda says, Ani v'ho, save us. Rashi says, Ani v'ho is the gematria of Ono Hashem. There seems to be other Kabbalistic undertones there as well. Oh, one thing I forgot to point out. Today, I have coffee here. So doing an experiment over here, drinking coffee. So l'chaim. L'chaim, very nice. Let's go weiter. Ve'osu hayom, and on that day, on the 7th day, makifin es ha-mizbeach sheva paimim. And on the 7th day of Sukkot, they would walk around the Mizbeach 7 times. And then afterwards, sounds like on the seventh day, when everything was done, what would they say? Yofi l'cha mizbeach, that all this beauty that we're doing with these Aravahs and this ceremony is for you, the altar. Rabbi Eliezer says, Rabbi Eliezer, lika v'lecha mizbeach, that to God and to you, mizbeach. Lika v'lecha mizbeach, to God and to you, mizbeach, altar. K'maaseu b'chol kach maaseu b'Shabbos, just like they would do it during the week, right? So we learned the other day that the Aravahs, the mitzvah of Aravah, they would only do on Shabbos when the seventh day of Sukkot was on Shabbos. So I guess what we're saying is that whether the seventh day of Sukkot falls out on Shabbos, whether the seventh day of Sukkot falls out on any other day of the week, the procession would be the same. The only difference being that if the seventh day of Sukkot was Shabbos, so they would gather the Aravahs already from the day before, from Friday, and they would leave them in like vats and golden vats with water in them, so that they shouldn't get withered. I believe it means with water in them. Mistama. They didn't have water, wouldn't they get withered? Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka, says Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka, Chariel shel dekel ayu meviin. They would take branches, palm branches, v'chovtin osen b'karka, and they would smack them against the ground. B'tzidei hamizbeach, next to the mizbeach, v'oso hayom nikra chibut choris. And that day, I guess the seventh day of Sukkot, I guess, was called the day of chibut choris, that they would whack the palm branches against the ground. Mi'atinokes shomtin es luvein v'ochlin es rogein. And then the adults would chop the lulavim from the children and eat their esrogim. Very nice. And Rashi says, this wasn't like, says Rashi, don't worry, it shouldn't be viewed as though they were like taking advantage of the kids and just stealing their lulavim and stuff. It was out of happiness, that they were so happy that they would chap arayin. Alright, very nice. They were very happy, so they would chap the esrogim from the kids. Were the kids very happy? Why not? Of course they were. Let's go back in the Gemara. Tana Mokum Kalanya Hava. Interesting. So this Motza place was a Makom Kalanya, a place that somehow didn't have to pay taxes to the king. I don't know why. I mean, they say there's two things that are certain in life, death and taxes. So I don't see why Motza would be any different. But maybe they paid different taxes. Akoponim, I don't know. But Makom Kalanya Hava, apparently this place Motza, you didn't have to pay tax. Maybe it was like Florida or something like that. Maybe like certain taxes you didn't have to like pay, right? Isn't Florida something like that? You don't have to pay what? Income to that? You don't have to pay some tax, state tax, some. So maybe there was like some kind of tax break over there, so everybody would kind of like go there into Chaparain, chveisnish. V'tanadidon, my time we call it Motza. How come we call this place Motza? I did the mepek michaga de malka. Because since they were exempt from paying the tax of the king, so that's why they called it motza, like yotze, like to be outside of the tax of the king. Alright, sounds fun. So we said that they would take the Aravahs and they would lean them against the Mizbeach. Tana, we learned in Ebraisa, so it says here Rabos, but who changed it? The Agos Marav Ronchberg. Who's that? So he changes Rabos to Rakos, which I think makes more sense. Tanarakos varu, maybe not, I don't know, whatever it is. Tanarakos varuchos ugvos, they were soft and they were long and they were tall. Achad esri ama, they were 11 amas tall. Okay, kadeshu gochis al mizbeach ama, so that they will be leaning over, bent over the mizbeach, 1 ama. Okay, because apparently, in order for the Aravah to be bent over the Mizbeach and Amma, it would have to be 2 Amas taller than the Mizbeach. Now, friends, how does the Mizbeach work? The Mizbeach works like this in terms of its architecture. So you have the first Amma of the Mizbeach. The Mizbeach is 10 Amas from the ground to the top of the sort of corners, the horns on the corners. So basically from the ground, there would be 1 Amma, and then it would go in Amma. and that was called the sovev, the part that goes around the mizbeach. Fine. Now, there were another 5 amas, and that was called the, what did I say? I said the sovev? No, that was the yesod. And then comes the next 5 amas, which is the sovev. Okay? And that's another 5 amas, and then it goes in another amma. Then there's another 3 amas, and then you get to the top. So basically, 1 plus 5 is 6, plus another 3 is 9. So basically, the top of the mizbeach was 9 amas off of the ground. Now, once you're on the top of the mizbeach, on each of the corners, there was like an amma cube, right? So there would be like, on each of the corners, there would also be like squares, a cube, that was 1 amma by 1 amma by 1 amma. So basically from the ground to the top of these cubes, on the top of the mizbeach was 10 amas, but the actual sort of place where you, like platform at the top of the mizbeach was 9 amas off the ground. Great. Now, we're saying that in order for an Aravah to be able to bend over the top of the mizbeach and have like an amma bent over it, it would have to be 2 amas taller than the mizbeach, right? So it would have to be 11 amas, and then it kind of goes up over the mizbeach an amma and then bends over an amma. Okay, fine. Now, here's the thing, friends. As I just described, the mizbeach, as it goes upwards, it also goes inwards, right? So for example, right, because we said that the yesod goes up an amma and then in an amma, and then the sovev goes up 5 amas and then in another amma. So basically the top of the mizbeach is actually 2 amas more inward than where, if you would take an Aravah and you would lean it on the ground and then lean it against the mizbeach, it would actually be on an angle, because the mizbeach is actually, the top of the mizbeach is actually 2 amas more inward than the outside of the mizbeach, because again, it goes up an amma, in an amma, up 5 amas, in another amma, then up 3 amas, and on top of that would be the platform on the top. So if you're going to be leaning the Aravah from the ground against the mizbeach, so it's going to be on an angle. Now friends, listen to this, friends. So and we're saying that the Aravah was 11 amas tall, and we're also saying that there needs to be at least 2 amas of slack at the top of the Aravah in order for it to bend over the top of the mizbeach and have an amma sort of angle. So here's the thing. If we're saying that the mizbeach is 9 amas tall, and if the Aravah is on the ground, which means that to lean it against the top of the mizbeach, it has to be on an angle, which means that the Aravah is going to have to be, just by doing like Pythagorean's theorem or something. So if the one side of the triangle is 9 amas tall, and then the bottom of the triangle is 2 amas, that hypotenuse, which is basically the angle that the Aravah is going to have to lean on, is going to have to be more than 9 amas, right? Meaning it's 9 amas tall, but that angle is going to be, right, that mizbeach is 9 amas tall, but because it's 2 amas inward, so the angle that the Aravah is going to have to be on is going to be more than 9 amas. Now, if we're saying that the total of the Aravah is 11 amas, so memele, the overhang of the Aravah over the mizbeach is going to be less than 2 amas. Because if it's a total of 11 amas, and we're saying that the angle of the leaning is going to have to memele be more than 9 amas, so 11 minus more than 9 is going to be less than 2. And we're saying that we need 2 amas of slack in order for the overhang to be hanging over by 1 amma. So therefore, with all this information, Mereimar says, Mereimar Mishum Marzutra, in the name of Marzutra, Shmamina, that it must be al hayisod manach lehu. So it must be that actually the Aravah is not standing on the ground, rather the Aravah is standing on the yesod. Right? We said that the yesod of the mizbeach, the first amma of the mizbeach, goes up an amma, in an amma. So it's like a platform, it's like a little step. So the Aravah was actually standing on that step, which therefore means that where it's elevated an amma off the ground. So now from the yesod to the top of the mizbeach is now 8 amas. So now already it can make more sense, because now since it's already leaning 1 amma inward, so basically now the angle of our triangle that we have now is 8 amas tall, because it's 1 amma up on top of the yesod, and also it's an amma in, because the yesod goes in an amma. So really now it only needs to travel 8 amas tall and 1 amma in, right? So the bottom of our right angle triangle, our right triangle is 1 amma, and the side of it is 8 amas. So then the hypotenuse is going to be 8 and a shtickle, So 11 minus 8 and a shtickle is more than 2. So now we can have our angle of at least, of 1 amma with the slack of at least 2 amas. So al yisod manachlu must be that the aravah was resting on the yisod of the mizbeach, the isakadaitich ha'ara manachlu, because if the aravah was on the ground, michdei ola amma v'chanas amma, the mizbeach would go up 1 amma and then in an amma zeu yisod. That was the foundation, the yisod of the mizbeach. Ola chomesh v'chanos amma, it would then go up 5 amas and in 1 amma. Zeu sovev. That was the area that was called the sovev. Allah shalosh, and then the mizbeach would go up another 3 amas, zeu mukom akronis, and then you get to the top of the mizbeach, which is where these horns, where those cubes would be on the top there. Goches agabe mizbeach echim shkachas la. So if that's the case, if the aravahs were on the ground, so then how can you have this overhang on the mizbeach, which we said requires a slack of 2 amas? But if the aravahs were on the ground, and to the top of the mizbeach is 9 amas, and it goes in amas, so we have a right triangle with the one side that's 9, the bottom that's 2. Memele, the hypotenuse is going to have to be more than 9, and 11 minus more than 9 is less than 2, and we need 2 amas of slack at least. So it must be elav shmamina, ayisod monach lu shmamina. Rather, it must be that the aravahs were on the yisod of the mizbeach, on top of that first amma and in an amma. So now you have a right triangle of but with a bottom of 1 and with a side of 8, which means that the hypotenuse is a shtickle more than 8, and then 11 minus a shtickle more than 8 is a shtickle more than 2, which works. Maybe even more than a shtickle than 2, but less than 3 lemaisa. Omer Babo, says Babo, my Kra'ah, where do we have a pasuk that talks about that you have the aravahs that go, surround the mizbeach, and on top of it, Isru Chag Ba'avosim, Shenemar, Isru Chag Ba'avosim Arkanas Mizbeach, surround the mizbeach Ba'avosim with these aravahs, with these branches, Arkanas Mizbeach, until the horns of the mizbeach, the top of the mizbeach. So basically, you take these aravahs and lean them against the top of the mizbeach. Omer Babo, says Babo, Omer Balazar, Kol Anota Lulav Ba'agudo. Anybody who takes his lulav with his bundle, v'hados ba'avoso, and his hados with, we said it's avos, right? Anof, it's avos, it's like braided. Ma'lo olav akosov, it's as though ki'ilu bona mizbeach v'ikuv olav korban. Chevi, you hear this? It's as if you built a mizbeach and offered a sacrifice on it. You take your lulav and your hados. It's as though you brought in a sacrifice on the mizbeach. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, Isru Chag Ba'avosim, that Isru is like to tie up, to take like that's the eged of the lulav. Chag Ba'avosim, which is like the Anof Eitz Avos, which is the Hados. Adkanos Mizbeach, it's like you offered a korban on the Mizbeach. Amr Reb Yirmiyah Mishum Reb Shimon ben Yochai says, right, it says Rashi Kilo Ad Karnos, it's like the Matan Damim, right? It's like putting the blood on the horns of the Mizbeach. Okay. Amr Reb Yirmiyah Mishum Reb Shimon ben Yochai says Reb Yirmiyah, the name of Reb Shimon ben Yochai, Reb Yochanan Mishum Reb Shimon Amachozi, Mishum Reb Yochanan Amakusi, Kol ha'oseh isur lechag ba'achila v'shtiya, ma'la olav akosov ki lubanim mizbeach v'kuv olav korban, givaldig. So there's 2 ways to understand this isur lechag. One is, right, like that so Rashi says isur lechag is aguda lechag, to bundle together. So kilu, as part of the festival, you eat and you drink. Another way to understand this is talking about the day after the festival. It's called Isru Chag, the day that follows the festival, right? So anybody who eats and drinks, whether it's on the festival or after, the day after the festival, it's as though korban. It's as though he constructed an altar or the altar and offered upon it a sacrifice. Shnemar, as the pasuk says, Isru Chag Ba'avosim. If you have like Isru Chag, that you're eating and drinking either on the festival, the day after the festival, Ba'avosim, like Gishmake, thick, fat, korbanis, Ad Karnas HaMizbeach, it's as though you're offering a korban and putting its blood on the horns of the Mizbeach. Amar Chizkiah, Amar Yirmiyah, Mishum Reb Shimon ben Yochai. Kol ha-mitzvahs kulan in adam yotzei bohen el derech gedei lason. That when it comes to mitzvahs, you have to do them in the way that they grow. For example, if we have a lulav, we mentioned the other day, if you have a lulav, you have to hold it right side up. You have to hold it from the bottom of the lulav to the top of the lulav. The top of the lulav has to be on top. Shenemar, right, by the way that in the direction that it grows. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, right, and the same thing with the Adasim and the Aravahs, Atze Shitim Omdim, that when it came to the Mishkan, the krashim, the beams, were Shitim wood standing. Shenemar, right, so standing from the bottom to the top. Taninam Yochi, we talk in a brisa like this, Atze Shitim Omdim, She'omdim derech gedei lason, that you have standing wood, that they're standing in the direction that they grow, with the thicker part at the bottom. Okay. Davar acher, another explanation. Omdim shema'amidin es tzifuyon. Okay, so atze shitim omdim, these standing shitim wood. So that's because in the Mishkan, this wood was covered with gold. It was gold plated. So they would take gold nails and they would like nail them into the wood. So these wood would kind of like uphold through their golden nails their gold plating. Another explanation for omdim is shematomer. Maybe you'll say avad sivram uvatal sichuyin, that maybe they're like lost in batal, maybe they're gone. No, tamalomer atze shitim omdim. They are standing shitim wood she'omdim la'olam ula'omei olam, that they're going to stick around forever, even to this very day. These atze shitim are somewhere. Interesting. Very interesting. Weiter. V'amar Chizkiah Amar Yirmiyah Mishum Reb Shimon ben Yochai Yochol Ani Lifteres Kol Ha'olam Kulan Min Adin. Says Reb Shimon ben Yochai, I can exempt the entire world from harsh judgment. Miyom Shenivrasi Ad Ata. From the day that I was born, that I was created until now. Now it says Reb Yochanan that I guess it says Reb Shimon ben Yochai that I guess that in his merit, theoretically, says Rashi, Liftar bizchusi ani sovel es kol avonosayim ufotrim min adin. I could sort of take upon myself all of their sins, and I have sort of like the ability, sort of the what's it called? The zchus, the merit, whatever. I don't know the word that I'm thinking. Clout. I don't know, whatever it is. He's on the level that theoretically, if everybody's sins were just dumped upon him, he'd be able to handle it and make them all exempt from harsh punishment. Ve'ilmale Elazar b'ni imi, and if it's not just me, if it's also me and my son Elazar, miyom shenivra olam vad achshav, we could handle all of the sins of the world from the time that the world was created until now. Ve'ilmale Yosem ben Uziyahu imanu, and if we had a threesome of me, my son, and Yosem ben Uziyahu, then miyom shenivra olam ad sofa. Well, then we can even handle all the sins of the world from the day that it was created until its very final day in the future. And says Chizkiah Amar Yirmiyah Mishum Reb Shimon ben Yochai Ra'isi b'nei Aliyah ve'in mu'atin. Says Reb Yirmiyah, says Chizkiah Reb Yirmiyah Mishum ben Yochai Ra'isi b'nei Aliyah. I've seen the Bnei Aliyah, says Rashi, Ra'isi b'nei Aliyah ve'in mu'atin ra'ani lefi ma'aseh abrios. I see based on the behavior of the people, shebnei Aliyah kasa makavim pnei shchina mu'atim. The group of people who are able to receive the face of God, ve'in mu'atin. There are very few people who are on the level that they can receive the face of God. Im elefein, if there's maybe 1,000 of them, ani uvni mei, and me and my son Elazar are among them. In Me'ahim, if there are 100, ani uvni me'en. And if there are 100, then me and my son Elazar are among them. Im shnayim hein, ani uvni hein. If there are only 2 of them, those 2 are me and my son Elazar. Umizutre kulehai, fact the Gemara, wait, are there so few of these Bnei Aliyah? Veha Amar Rava, but Rava said, Tam desrei alfei dara, 18,000 rows of tzaddikim have a dekame kudshabrichu, were before God. Shinemar Saviv Shmona Asar Elef, that surrounding God are 18,000. Lo kasha the mistakle bas baklaria meira the lo mistakle bas baklaria meira. It says it depends. Sure, there were 18,000 rows of tzaddikim surrounding God, but they weren't necessarily all able to see through a clear screen. But these Bnei Aliyah, that maybe they were 1,000, maybe they were 100, maybe only 2, they were able to see through a clear screen God. Are there really so few that are able to see through this clear screen? Like maybe only like 2 of them? But Abaye said, "Lo pachis alma mitlosim v'shisut tzadikim demekabli apeshchina b'chol yom." But Abaye says that there are 36, that there are no less than 36 tzaddikim that are able to receive the face of God every single day. So why would Reb Shimon ben Yochai say that there were maybe potentially only 2? Abaye says that there are at least 36. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, "Ashiko chochelo." Praised, fortunate are those who wait for him. Lo b'gmat shetlosim v'shisavu, and lo is lamed vav 36. Lo kasha da'ale b'bar hada'ale b'lo bar. So even then it depends. So even though there are at least 36 every day who can receive the face of God, but they may not necessarily be able to go in without permission. Right? There's only a few of them that can go in without permission. Wow. And says Reb Shimon that he and his son Reb Elazar are them. Wow. Very interesting. Wow. Reb Shimon ben Yochai, huh? Wow. And interesting, I've been smelling something. It smells like something is burning. I was wondering, what's that smell? And then I just realized, Lamaisa, there's a big fire here in Yerushalayim, outside of Yerushalayim, on the day of this recording. Yeah, big fire. Big fire. I don't even know if it's under control yet. It's been burning since yesterday, Lamaisa. That must be what I'm smelling. It is in the house. Kal v'chomer outside the house. Weiter. B'shas p'tiroson ma'in omrim v'chulei. And when they leave, so when they leave after the Aravah, so what do they say? So Reb Eliezer said, Lika ulcha mizbeach, that to God and to you, mizbeach. So, but 1 second, how can you say to God and to you, mizbeach? You're joining together the name of God with something else. Anybody who joins the name of God with something else, we're going to uproot him from the world. Do you want to be uprooted from the world? Where would you go? Mars? If you go to Mars, is that considered getting uprooted from the world? Mistama, nekar min olam. We're going to send you on like a SpaceX flight to Mars. Jeff Bezos just went, Mistama went on his own thing. What's his thing called? Blue something, right? I can't remember. Blue something, I think. Nekar min olam. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, Bilti la Hashem levado, that you have to keep God alone. Okay? Hachi ka'amar, this is what it means. Lika anachnu modim, that to God we give thanks, v'lecha anu mishabchin, and to you the mizbeach we praise. Lika anachnu modim, v'lecha anu mekalsin, that to God we give thanks, and to you we give praise. K'maiseu b'chol, that just like they do it when the 7th day of Sukkot falls out during the week, they also do it the same way on Shabbos. Amr Rav Huna, my time with Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka. How come Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka says that they also take this palm branch and whack it against the floor? The Chsiv, as the pasuk says, kapos shnayim. Well, kapos tamarim, 2 kinds of palm branches. Achas lulav, achas lemizbeach. One is for the lulav, of course, and one is for the mizbeach that they would smack on the floor. Rabban and Amrei, and the rabbi say kapas ksiv. It says kapas, meaning we read it kapos, but it's written without a vav, which is singular, kapas, and therefore it is singular. Therefore, there's only one palm branch, and that's for the lulav. Reb Levi explains Reb Yochanan ben Broka, how come we whack the palm branch against the floor? It's because katomer, because the Yidden are compared to a palm tree. Just like this palm tree just has one heart, it's referring to the sap in the middle of the tree. Also the Yidden only have one heart, and that's for their God in heaven. So in order to emphasize this comparison of Yidden to a palm tree, so we take a palm branch and we whack it against the floor to say that just like the palm tree only has one heart, we also only have one heart, and that heart is for the Eibishter. That was Daf Memhei of Masechta Sukkah. So what do you guys think? Memhei, you like it, right? It was gewaldig. So we learned a lot about I don't know a lot, but we learned about the Aravah, the mitzvah of Aravah, right? That was really what the Mishnah talked about, the Aravah, how they would chop the branches of the Aravah from Motza, they'd bring it to Yerushalayim, and their religion says that they would lean it against the Mizbeach, but I think that there was a little bit more than that. I think that they would kind of walk around the Mizbeach and shake it and then lean it against the Mizbeach. We said that they would lean it, the bottom of the Aravah would be on the Yesod of the Mizbeach, and then they would lean it against the Mizbeach, and it was 11 amas tall, and it would kind of hang over the Mizbeach. We had a few interesting vartlach based on Isru Chag Bavosam Mekanos HaMizbeach. For example, somebody who takes his lulav and his hadas, it's as if he brings a korban and builds a mizbeach and offers a korban on it. We said anybody who does Isru Chag, whether that means to enjoy eating and drinking on the festival itself, or maybe the day after the festival, which we refer to as Isru Chag, the day after the festival, if you eat and drink on Isru Chag, so it's like you built a mizbeach and offered a korban on it. And we had some very interesting agadatas about Rashbi ben Yochai, how he was saying that he and his son and Yosem ben Uziyahu, that they would be able to basically neutralize almost, I don't know about neutralize, but take upon themselves all the sins of the world and save everybody from harsh decrees. Rashbi ben Yochai then also said that he's seen the people who are able to receive the face of God, and there are not many of them. And him and his son are certainly among them. Even if there's only two, it is them. We saw an interesting Gemara. Abaye says that at any given time there are 36 righteous people who are worthy of seeing the face of God. Wow. And we saw a beautiful vart at the end that the Yidden are compared. Well, how about this? We saw the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka that you would take a palm branch and you would whack it against the floor. The kasha is, why does Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka say that? So Rav Huna says that because it says kapos tamarim. Kapos is plural, so you have the palm branch for the lulav. You also have the palm branch that you whack on the floor next to the mizbeach. Whereas the Chacham said that you don't do that because it says even though we read it kapos, it's written kapas, which is singular, so we just have the palm branch for the lulav. Reb Levi says that the reason for Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka to also have the palm branch in the context by the Aravah as well is because to teach a deeper lesson, which is that just like a palm tree has one heart for the inside of it, which is referring to the sap that's in the tree, so also the Yidden, we have one heart, and that heart is for the Eibishter. Hope you have a great day. Cheers.